The strange discovery Jack's ship landed quietly on the surface of a massive derelict freighter floating in deep space. The freighter was dark old and looked like it hadn't moved in years. No signals, no heat, no life. Just cold metal and silence. Jack, a human scavenger, had seen many dead ships before, but something about this one felt different. Still, credits were credits. He geared up, grabbed his plasma torch, and stepped into the airlock. The ship groaned, as if it didn't want to be disturbed. Inside, it was freezing. The lights were dead, and the air smelled stale. Jack's boots echoed on the metal floor as he walked through the tight halls. His flashlight beam danced over walls filled with strange alien writing. He couldn't read it, but he recognized danger when he saw it. Probably a Zarthan ship. Jack whispered to himself, tapping the metal. Could be good tech inside. He moved deeper into the ship. Most rooms were empty, just rusted consoles and smashed crates. He found a few tools, some parts, but nothing special. Until he reached the cargo bay. The doors were half open, jammed by a fallen beam. Jack squeezed through and paused. There was someone inside. He saw movement behind a stack of broken crates. Soft breathing. Jack raised his weapon slowly and called out, "Hey, I'm not here to hurt you." No answer. He moved closer, heart pounding. He peeked behind the crates and froze. It was a girl. An alien girl. Maybe 17 or 18 in human years, with silver skin and glowing blue eyes. Her long dark hair was tangled, and her clothes were torn and dirty. Her arms were chained to the floor. She looked up at Jack with wide, terrified eyes. Jack lowered his weapon. "Hey, it's okay," he said softly. "I'm not one of them. I'm just passing through." The girl didn't speak. She pulled back like a scared animal. Her wrists bled from the chains, and her body shook from cold and fear. Jack dropped to one knee. "You need help." She stared at him, then slowly shook her head. "No, run." Her voice was weak, barely a whisper. Jack leaned in. "What? Why?" "Will come," Jack frowned. "Who?" The girl didn't answer. Her eyes drifted to a mark on the wall, an ugly symbol, burned into the metal. Jack didn't recognize it, but the way she looked at it made his stomach twist. Jack pulled out his plasma cutter and aimed it at her chains. "No!" she cried suddenly. "He will know." Jack hesitated. Who will know? The master. Jack felt a chill down his spine. Everyone in the galaxy had heard stories about the Tyrant, a cruel alien warlord who ruled entire sectors with fear. Some said he collected rare beings like pets. Others said he burned whole planets for fun. Was she talking about him? Jack didn't care. He started cutting the chains. The alien girl flinched but didn't stop him. Sparks flew. Metal hissed. After 2 minutes, the chains snapped free. She stared at her hands in disbelief. For the first time, her fingers were free. She looked up at Jack like she couldn't believe he'd done it. "There, you're free now," Jack said, standing up. "Come on. My ship's nearby. We'll get out of here." She hesitated, then slowly nodded. Jack helped her stand. Her legs were weak. She nearly fell. Jack caught her and gently supported her weight. They made their way back through the ship. As they reached the airlock, a loud beep echoed behind them. A red light blinked on a panel near the wall. The ship was waking up. "No, no, no." The girl cried. "What is it?" Jack asked. She grabbed his arm, fear in her eyes. "He knows. He always knows." Jack didn't wait. He pulled her through the airlock and slammed the button. His ship's door opened, and they rushed inside. The second they stepped in, Jack's sensors went crazy. Something had pinged their location. A signal. A message sent out. Jack looked at the girl. What just happened? She looked down, whispering, "He will come for me." Jack stared at her, heart racing. "Who are you?" The girl looked up at him, her eyes filled with sorrow and warning. "I am his treasure." Escape from the ship shuddered like it had been stabbed awake. Red lights began to blink inside the dark corridors, and the once dead freighter groaned with mechanical life. Deep within its core, ancient systems reactivated, sensors searching, scanners humming, and warning sirens growing louder by the second. Jack didn't wait to ask questions. He grabbed the alien girl's hand and sprinted toward the docking tunnel. But she stumbled, still weak from captivity. Jack threw her arm around his shoulder and half-carried her as they ran. The ship's voice came to life. It wasn't human, it was cold, guttural, and ancient. It repeated the same message in an alien tongue again and again. Lyra, the alien girl, whispered, "He knows. He knows you touched me." Jack didn't reply. He could already tell. His ship's systems were going haywire. The Tyrant's freighter had just sent a signal. Whoever owned this ship was powerful. And now they were angry. The docking tunnel ahead of them was closing. The outer airlock had started to shut. Jack jumped forward, slamming his hand on the override panel. Sparks flew. The tunnel groaned. With one last push, the doors hissed open, just enough for them to squeeze through. Jack pulled her into his smaller ship and punched the emergency close button. The hatch slammed shut just as the freighter behind them lit up like a star going nova. Jack didn't even sit. He dropped her in the co-pilot seat, rushed to the console, and hit the launch sequence. Engines roared to life. His ship shook, rising from the derelict surface, just as a powerful force beam from the freighter tried to pull them back. "I've got one shot," Jack muttered. He flipped the thrusters into overload mode. The small human ship blasted away with everything it had. The freighter's tractor beam cracked and flickered, unable to hold them. But then from the other side of the freighter, something huge emerged. A black spiked ship, shaped like a dragon's skull, began to rise, sleek, deadly, and glowing with red veins of energy. Jack's eyes widened. "Oh, crap." Lyra turned pale. "That's his ship." The Tyrant had already arrived. Inside the massive command ship, a tall armored figure stood before a curved glass screen. He had 4 arms, black armor, and burning red eyes. His breathing echoed like thunder through his helmet. The signal was clear. Someone had freed her. "She's gone," the Tyrant growled. His second in command, a hunched alien with data wires growing from his skull, trembled. "A human. We believe. He escaped with her." The Tyrant's jaw tightened. "Bring them back." "But sir, bring them back." Jack zigzagged through asteroid fields, his ship barely holding together. The alien girl clutched the side of the chair, her eyes locked on the screen. "They will follow us," she said softly. "Then we make them work for it," Jack said, flipping switches. "I've been chased before, but never by a space demon." He smirked, but inside, his heart raced. The Tyrant's ship was faster, deadlier, and had weapons he couldn't even pronounce. There was no way he could win a fight. So he had to vanish. Jack scanned the nearby sector. They're a dense asteroid cluster, filled with magnetic interference. Perfect for hiding. "I hope you like roller coasters," he said as he dove straight into the field. Rocks the size of houses flew past them. Lasers from the pursuing ship fired, missing by inches. Jack flew between 2 giant stones, spiraling through a narrow gap. Behind him, the Tyrant's ship paused, too big to follow. For now, the smaller hunter drones launched instead. 3 of them. Lyra looked up. "They never stop," Jack grinned. "Then let's give them something to chew on." He twisted the ship, swerving into a tunnel inside one of the asteroids. The walls were jagged. The ship scraped the sides. Sparks flew. Warning lights screamed. The first drone followed. Jack armed his only trick, an old mining charge. "Hang on." He dropped the explosive behind them. Boom! The tunnel collapsed. 1 drone vanished in fire and dust. 2 more to go, after 20 minutes. Of intense flying, the remaining drones gave up and returned. Jack finally slowed down. His ship was damaged, fuel was low, but they were alive. For now, he turned to Lyra. All right, start talking. Who exactly are you? And why is a galactic Death Lord hunting you like a lost puppy? Lyra looked at him with tired eyes. I am not just a slave, she whispered. I am his future. Jack blinked. His what? She didn't answer. Instead, she pulled down the collar of her shirt, just slightly, to reveal a glowing mark on her chest, a symbol of royalty. Jack leaned back, stunned. What the hell have I gotten myself into? The alien girl's secret. Jack couldn't stop staring at the glowing mark on her chest. It wasn't just ink. It pulsed softly, like it had a heartbeat. A circle inside a triangle, surrounded by strange alien symbols that shimmered with each breath. She took. You've got 5 seconds to explain that, Jack said. Not angrily, but seriously. Lyra covered the mark again, her fingers trembling. She looked down. That is the royal sigil of my bloodline. I was never meant to be seen by commoners. I was hidden, until he found me. Who? Jack asked, though he already knew. She raised her head. The Tyrant. Your people call him Zorvak the Devourer. He calls me his treasure. But I was born a queen. Jack's mouth went dry. Wait, hold on, you're telling me I just stole the bride of a galactic warlord? Lyra nodded slowly. Not bride, trophy. Jack ran his hand down his face. Oh, much better. He stood up and paced around the tiny cockpit. Outside the window, stars shimmered, peaceful for now. But Jack knew peace wouldn't last. This is bad, he muttered. No, this is worse than bad. He's going to hunt us across every star system. Lyra said nothing. Her eyes were focused on her own hands, soft, scarred, but steady. She had stopped shaking now. I don't want to go back, she whispered. I would rather die in space than return to that prison. Jack stopped. His voice softened. You're not going back. I don't care who he is. Lyra looked at him. Why did you help me? Jack sat back down across from her. Because you looked like you needed it, and because I hate slavers. She tilted her head. You don't want a reward? Jack smirked. I was hoping you had a stash of jewels hidden in your boots, but I guess not. That made her smile just a little, but the moment faded fast. Lyra suddenly clutched her chest. Jack rushed over. Hey, what's wrong? Lyra gasped. He still sees me. Jack didn't understand until he saw it, a faint red glow behind her left shoulder, under the skin. A tiny blinking light. Is that a tracker? He asked. She nodded. Bio-linked. If removed wrong, it will kill me. Jack gritted his teeth. Of course it will. He pulled open a hidden drawer in the floor. Inside was a small med kit, and something he rarely used, a surgical tool from his days as a battlefield mechanic. He looked her in the eyes. You trust me? Lyra blinked. No, he laughed. Good answer. But you'll have to let me try anyway. He laid her on the medical bunk. She stayed calm, even as he cut near the device. Alien tech wasn't his specialty, but he understood. Traps. Sweat rolled down his forehead as he moved a fiber sensor away from her vein. One wrong move, and her heart would stop. The blinking got faster. He muttered, Come on, you cursed thing. Then it clicked loose. Jack dropped it into a sealed box. The blinking stopped. So did Lyra's gasping. She breathed slowly now. Her eyes fluttered open. You did it. Jack gave a shaky laugh. I can't believe I did either. Suddenly, an alert blared through the cockpit. They both jumped. Jack ran back to the pilot's seat. Oh, come on, Lyra followed, still weak but standing. What is it? He pointed at the screen. 3 bounty signals just lit up across the sector. He put a price on your return, and my head. Lyra's face turned pale. How many? Jack read the screen. 22 ships. And rising. Lyra sat down quietly beside him. She looked at the stars and whispered, He will burn entire planets to find me. Jack looked at her, then back at the screen. Then we better make sure he never does. He flipped a switch. The ship disappeared into the jump stream, leaving a ghost signal behind. Jack had a plan. It was crazy. It was dangerous. But if it worked, they might just live long enough to make the Tyrant regret ever calling her a trophy. The Tyrant's fury, the war room of the flagship, was silent until the Tyrant spoke. His voice wasn't loud, but it echoed like thunder through the chamber. Deep, slow, and full of quiet rage. She is gone. The high-ranking officers of the fleet froze. No one dared move. The air felt heavy, like gravity itself was afraid. Zorvak the Devourer stood at the center, 8 feet tall. 4 muscular arms. His armor was made from the bones of extinct beasts. His red eyes burned through his helmet like 2 suns ready to explode. She was taken, he said again, colder now. One officer finally spoke, shaking as he did. The human. We believe he did not know who she was. A scavenger, untrained, alone. Zorvak's silence was more terrifying than shouting. He stepped forward slowly, reaching for the officer's head. The officer screamed once. Then silence. The others lowered their heads. No one questioned the Tyrant's anger again. Bring me the human, Zorvak growled. Alive or dead. And bring her back, unharmed. He turned toward the giant screen. On it, Lyra's face appeared, taken from the moment she'd first arrived in his chambers. Years ago, young, scared, defiant. She is mine, he whispered. And the hunt began. Meanwhile, far away in deep space, Jack sat on the edge of his ship's bed, welding a broken panel. Sparks flew, and the room smelled of burned circuits. Lyra sat nearby, watching him in silence. Why do you fix everything yourself? She asked. Jack didn't look up. Because no one else will. He paused, then added, and because I don't trust machines I haven't touched myself. Lyra gave a small nod. She understood that. Her own body still ached from the tracking device he had removed. Suddenly, the ship lights flickered. Jack stood up fast. That's not good. He rushed to the cockpit. A red warning flashed across the screen. Incoming signal. Long-range scan. Origin unknown. Multiple ships. Already? Jack muttered. They found us. Lyra joined him. We jumped through 5 systems. That should have confused them. Jack leaned back. Yeah, but we left a trace. I tried to fake it, but they're faster than I thought. Lyra touched the console. Her glowing mark blinked once. She whispered something in her native language, and the screen changed. Alien. Symbols appeared, showing enemy fleet formations. Jack raised an eyebrow. How did you do that? Lyra didn't look at him. He made sure I could never hide, so I learned how to watch him. Jack stared at her. You're more than just a queen, aren't you? Lyra finally looked at him. I was trained to be his most perfect possession. Smart, strong, loyal. But I broke before he could finish. Jack nodded slowly. Then let's make sure you stay broken in the best way. He turned back to the controls. We can't outrun his whole fleet, so we have to do something he won't expect. Like what? Lyra asked. Hide in plain sight, Jack said with a grin. And hit back. Back aboard the Tyrant's ship, a captain ran toward the throne room. My lord. The human changed course. He entered a radiation zone, sector Delta 9. Zorvak's fists clenched. That sector is dead space. Nothing survives there long. But he did not slow down, the officer said. Zio Rega stepped forward, voice cold. Then he thinks he's clever. He walked toward the ship's command center. Send shadow wings. Let them flush him out. I want his ship destroyed. But bring me her, whole, the officer bowed. Yes, Supreme Master. Zorvak turned back to the screen and stared at the image of Jack's ship. Human. You do not understand what you've done, but you will. Inside the radiation zone, Jack was sweating. Shields holding at 40%. He muttered. Lyra was coughing slightly. The radiation was thick. The ship groaned from the pressure. "We can't stay here long," she said. "I know. Just long enough to make them think we're dead." Jack activated a decoy beacon, a small pod that exploded in the distance, sending a false signal. "They'll follow that," Jack said, panting. "We'll drift with no power for a while. Let them think we burned up." Lyra sat beside him, watching his every move. "You risk so much," she whispered. "Why?" Jack didn't answer right away. He stared out the window at the stars. Because no one should be owned. Running for their lives, the silence was perfect. Too perfect. Jack floated in the darkened cockpit, barely breathing. Every system on his ship was shut down. No lights, no heat, no sound. Just drifting in deep space like a ghost. Beside him, Lyra sat with her knees pulled to her chest, her glowing mark hidden beneath a scarf. The two of them waited, watching, listening. Outside, through the narrow window, 3 shadowy ships glided past like hunting sharks, sleek, black, deadly. They left no light behind, only a faint hum that vibrated through the ship's walls. Jack whispered, "That's them." "Stealth hunters," Lyra nodded. "Shadow wings. He only sends them when he wants the target dead, quickly." Jack frowned. "Lovely." One of the ships paused. It had detected something. Jack gripped the emergency thruster control. Fingers twitching. One wrong move, one strange echo, and they'd be spotted. Lyra leaned close. Her voice was barely a breath. "They can't see us if we don't move." For 2 full minutes, time stopped. Then the hunter ship turned away and vanished into the mist of radiation and space dust. Jack finally exhaled. "We're not dead yet," Lyra replied softly. A few hours later, with the enemy gone, Jack slowly powered up the ship again. Lights returned. Systems buzzed. The ship groaned from the radiation damage, but it was still flying. Lyra helped him run scans. He looked at her with quiet surprise. "You're good at this." "I had to be," she replied. "He liked watching me work. He said it made me useful and beautiful." Jack shook his head. "That guy deserves a punch in the teeth." Lyra gave a faint smile. "You'd need a rocket launcher," Jack chuckled. "I've got one, but I'm saving it." They reached the edge of the radiation zone and found a massive hidden junk. Field old ships, wreckage, satellites, and broken stations. Jack navigated inside like a fish through coral. "We'll hide here," he said. "Scanners won't work well. If they try to follow, they'll lose signal in this mess." Lyra looked around. "What is this place?" Jack replied. "Graveyard. Every war leaves one. These are the bones." He landed his ship inside the broken hull of an old battleship and shut down the engines again. Then he turned to her. "All right, new plan. We stop running." Lyra blinked. "What?" "We make them chase a ghost while we find allies. Someone out there hates the Tyrant as much as you do. No one will help us," she said. "They fear him." "Then we find someone who doesn't fear death," Jack said with a smirk. Meanwhile, aboard the Tyrant's throne ship, Zorvac crushed another screen in his hand. The decoy was false. The voice from the control room said, "The human lives. The girl remains with him." Zorvac's red eyes narrowed. "Enough of this game." He turned to his war captains. "Double the bounty. No more subtlety. I want them hunted like animals. Anyone who helps them dies." He stepped onto the central platform. A large hologram of Lyra appeared before him. "She will return to me," he said, "even if the stars must burn." Back in the junk field, Jack worked with a plasma torch, welding together strange pieces of metal. Lyra watched him from a distance, her arms crossed. "What are you building?" He didn't look up. "A message." She raised an eyebrow. "To who?" Jack smiled. "To everyone who hates tyrants." He tapped the last piece of tech into place. A signal beacon. When activated, it would send one message through the old rebel channels. She's alive. The Tyrant wants her. I have her. If you want to fight him, find me. Lyra walked closer, uncertain. This is madness. Yep. Jack agreed. But madness is how we survive. He pressed the button. The beacon lit up faint, quiet. But it spread like wildfire all across space. Former rebels, smugglers, mercenaries, and enemies of Zorvac got the message, for the first time in years. Someone had stood up to the Tyrant, and that someone was human. The final stand. The signal traveled farther than Jack had hoped. It didn't just reach allies, it reached ghosts. Across old war-torn planets, hidden space stations, and outlaw moons, rebel lights flickered on once again. And one by one, the forgotten voices of the galaxy responded to the humans' challenge. But they weren't the only ones listening. Inside the throne chamber of the Tyrant, the air burned with fury. Zorvac stood like a shadow carved from fire and metal, his fists clenched, eyes glowing red. The signal from the human still echoed on his war screen. She's alive. The Tyrant wants her. I have her. If you want to fight him, find me. The words repeated like a curse. Fools, Zorvac growled. They forget who I am. He turned to his generals. No more bounty, no more tricks. Prepare the war fleet. 1. General hesitated. You plan to send the entire fleet? For one human? Zorvac answered without looking. He stole what is mine. He made her believe she is free. That is worth 1,000 fleets. The order was clear. The hunt was over. Now, it was war. Inside the rusted remains of the old battleship, Jack worked nonstop. The place smelled of dust, oil, and hope. With Lyra's help, he transformed the hollow corpse of the ancient ship into a trap. Not just a hiding place, a battlefield. He welded new doors, rigged explosives, rewired power nodes, and set up hidden turrets using old scavenged tech. The place became a maze of metal and danger. Lyra watched him carefully. You've done this before, Jack nodded. Warzone on Darrow's Prime. We were surrounded. Had to build traps just to stay alive. Did it work? Jack smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. For a while. By night cycle, ships began arriving, small, broken, mismatched. But their crews were full of fire. An old rebel ship with scorched wings, a pirate vessel shaped like a knife, a mercenary cruiser covered in red paint and scars, and many more. Jack stood on a platform above the crowd. Beside Lyra, they stared at him, dozens of beings from all over the galaxy. Human and alien alike, fighters, outlaws, survivors. Jack raised his voice. I'm not a general, I'm not a hero. But I've seen what fear does. That thing out there, Zorvac, he feeds on fear. He thinks you'll all run. He looked at Lyra. She thought I would run too. The crowd was silent. Jack's voice hardened. We're not running, he pointed to the stars. If we die as free people. Not as his trophies. Cheers exploded. Weapons were raised. And so the trap was set. Hours later, the sky broke. Zorvac's war fleet arrived like a tidal wave of darkness. Thousands of ships, battleships, carriers, fighters. Enough firepower to burn a moon. Inside the ruined battleship, alarms blared. They're here, Lyra said softly. Jack nodded. Let's welcome them. The Tyrant's ships approached, shields glowing. Zorvac himself rode in a massive flagship, shaped like a dragon's skull with fire leaking from its engines. Send in the first wave, Zorvac ordered. Crush the humans, bring her back. But as the first line of attack ships neared the wrecked battlefield, boom! The first trap triggered. A wave of plasma mines tore through the lead vessels. Turrets activated, firing from the bones of the old ship. Snipers popped from hidden towers. Rebel ships struck from the shadows. What looked like junk became war. Zorvac's voice roared through the battlefield. Kill them all. But his forces weren't prepared for this. Inside the battlecruiser, Jack fought alongside Lyra. He ducked lasers, shouted commands, activated bombs by hand, and used every dirty trick he'd ever learned. Lyra, now confident and fierce, used her voice to unlock systems in enemy ships. Her royal code, once used to control her, was now being used against her captors. Together, they were unstoppable. Enemy forces broke apart. Zorvak saw the chaos from his throne and bellowed in rage. He stood and slammed his fists into the floor. "Bring me down," he growled. "I will face them myself." Moments later, a drop pod smashed into the battlefield. Zorvak stepped out, glowing with rage. Jack stood waiting, blaster in hand. Lyra beside him, unshaken. The Tyrant laughed. "One human, one broken girl. You truly think you can stop me?" Jack smirked. "We already did." And behind him, the last trap activated. The entire floor glowed red. Zorvak looked down, too late. Freedom. Javak looked down. The ground beneath him wasn't metal anymore. It was glowing, humming with hidden energy. A trap. "You think this trick will kill me?" he growled. "No," Jack replied. "It's not meant to kill you." He raised a remote device in his hand and pressed it. The floor beneath Zorvak exploded, not outward, but inward. The Tyrant dropped through the collapsing floor straight into the ship's old reactor chamber. Thick energy fields locked around him, trapping him inside a containment cube built from ancient tech. He roared in fury, slamming into the walls. "Let me out!" Jack stood above the pit, breathing hard. That's the thing about being a tyrant. Eventually, someone gets tired of running. Lyra stepped forward, and someone else stops being afraid. The battlefield fell silent. Zorvak's fleet had stopped firing, leaderless. Confused. Rebel ships circled around. The surviving fighters raised their weapons, not in war, but in victory. Across the galaxy, signals went out. Cameras, drones, eyewitnesses. The message was clear. Zorvak the Devourer had fallen. By the hands of a human, and the girl he once called a trophy. Later, inside the makeshift command room of the wrecked warship, Jack poured water into a cracked metal cup and handed it to Lyra. She took it with both hands, drinking slowly. Her eyes still glowing faintly, but now softer, free. "I never thought it would end," she said. Jack smiled. "Nothing lasts forever. Not even tyrants." She looked at him. "What now?" He sat beside her. "Now, the galaxy chooses. People will fight over who takes his place, or maybe they'll build something better." She studied his face. "And you?" Jack looked out at the stars beyond the broken wall. "I go where I'm needed. I'm not the hero type." Lyra tilted her head. "You were mine." Jack turned, caught off guard. She looked away quickly. "I didn't mean," but he smiled. "No, I get it, and maybe I needed saving too." The wrecked battlefield slowly turned into a gathering place. Ships docked, supplies shared, wounded helped. Former enemies shook hands. Flags of resistance were raised again. Inside a sealed vault, the Tyrant remained trapped, powerless. His roars now whispers. His once great empire crumbling. His name, once feared, became a joke across the stars. And Lyra? She became more than a symbol. She became a leader. Months later, in a rebuilt outpost above a green moon, a crowd had gathered. Aliens and humans stood side by side, cheering as Lyra stood on a platform, wearing a robe of simple silver cloth. She raised her hand. "I was once a prisoner, a voice in a cage, but now I speak for all who were silenced. No more fear, no more chains." The crowd cheered. Jack stood in the back, arms crossed, smiling. A rebel leader walked up to him. "You could stay, you know. You're a legend now." Jack shrugged. "I don't like the spotlight. You saved her life. She saved mine." That night, under the stars, Lyra found Jack beside his repaired ship. "You're leaving," she said quietly. Jack nodded. "Yeah, you've got things handled here, and I don't belong to any one place." Lyra looked down. "Then take this." She held out a small crystal glowing with the same light as her mark. "It's a key," she said, "to my home. To return, if you ever want to." Jack took it. "You trust me that much?" Lyra smiled. "I always did, even when I was afraid." He stepped closer. "You're not afraid anymore." "No," she whispered. "Not when I know someone like you exists." Jack didn't say goodbye. He simply nodded once and walked into the stars.